If you've ever felt like life is rushing by, that you are always busy, but you don't ever, like you're missing out on living. I've been there. I'm with you on that. You're not alone. I have experienced that many times in my life where I'm just busy, 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 and I feel like I'm missing out on life and on true living. I've been there and I've learned the lessons the hard way, and I'm here to share that with you today. We are going to be talking about slow living, intentional living, doing what matters most in your life. And I like to just, because my platform is mostly about money and abundance and things like that, these two come together quite nicely, I've learned. So we're going to bring that aspect into it today. And so today I really want to share with you what slow living means to me and how it's becoming a part of everything I do, all the decisions I make, and how it can work for you and what it can mean for your life. Let's jump in. For those that don't know me, I am Maria Condi. I am an empowerment coach, life and business strategist. I don't know what to label myself as. I'm certified in all the things, but for me, I find I'm really a catalyst for people that help them to feel empowered, to take those next steps, to get into action. That's what I'm truly about, and that's what I'm passionate about. And along with that, too, is about women being financially independent. And that's self-defined. I don't have a, social media, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have a social media definition attached to that, but that you might find in today's world. Today, we're going to be talking about really getting grounded in life. And we're going to start by talking about what slow living really, really means. Because a lot of people, when they think about slow living, they think about coming to a grinding halt. They're thinking about homesteading sometimes. They're thinking about some really far out kind of, far end of the spectrum sort of things. Don't get me wrong. I think homesteading is really cool. It's not far out. But for some people, if you're a city dweller, homesteading could be the opposite end of that, right? So you can, if you want to have that city life like I do, I have moments where I really want to be a homesteader, trust me, especially in today's times that we have. But I love city life. And how do you find that space to not be busy all the time, right? And not feel like you're coming unglued and always, always, always having to be and do and all those things, like always on, because that's where I was. So for me, I had to do this very, very intentionally. And that's what inspired the naming changes on many of my platforms, from Maria Kondo coaching and many of them, to inspired by intention. It's about creating that inspired life, but very intentionally. You can have all the things that you want, but you have to, it's about choosing what matters most to you. And that's where we're going to get into, letting go of some of the busy. It is not about laziness. It's really about quality over quantity. And when you put this into practice in a business, it actually makes a lot of sense because you're actually quite a bit more productive. You're thinking clearer when you're looking after yourself and you're not burnt out. Everything becomes better at that point. For me, I've had a couple aha moments over the last few years. I've always aspired to this. But it's when life, you get those little messages, right? And all of a sudden life takes a baseball bat to you because you're really not hearing what the universe is telling you, right? And that was me. I had a couple big moments the last few years where I had trips to the hospital due to stress and not looking after myself at the levels I needed to. And I had to turn that around. Nobody else was going to do that for me. The same for you. No one else will do that for you unless it's a doctor or hospital bed that does that. That's about the only time that you have those moments, right? But you still have to make the decision because when you get out of that hospital bed, you can either go back to the lifestyle you had or you can choose a different path. And I chose to choose a different path. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. I'm a type A personality, go, go, go. I'm all or nothing. I'm having to find the fine line in there where I can I'm getting all the things done that I want to. I'm learning to say no to the things that I don't really need to be doing and truly doing what matters most to me. Today was a great example. I set my alarm for 5:55 a.m. It went off. I pressed off and woke up at 10 after, it was 8:11 when my daughter woke me up. I was exhausted for a whole bunch of other reasons. I was up late doing something that I was very passionate about. And I didn't have to be anywhere, but I was in that drive mode of like, I want to keep going. I like doing my French on Sunday mornings and, you know, but it was okay. I didn't have to get up that early. So it's still reprogramming within me that I have to do this. And I like, Sunday mornings, I love savoring my coffee without going out and running errands. Those are the things, the moments where you can set some boundaries and do what you want. You have a say in all it's your life, right? And yes, when you have kids, there's things that you have to do. But I had one of my clients recently say to me, um, her exact words were, I may have signed my kids up for too many sports activities recently. And kids need to know what are we teaching them sometimes, right? They need to learn to have some stillness in their life. It doesn't mean that they don't do anything, but sitting at the table with some Play-Doh or some art or something like that, where they can have where their brain doesn't have to be go, go, go and inundated with the TV and social media and all the things that are going on in the world because it's nonstop. And I see this in so many places. And I'm here in Canada and I have a large American family and I see it on both sides of our border. It's very challenging in both spaces right now. Election in our country right now at the time of this. And, elections bring out the worst in people sometimes, which is really sad. And we're not going to get into politics on this. And then you have our American friends that are going through their own challenges in a very significant way right now, too and the world in general. We got wars and we have all these things going on. And you add that to all the other things about life in general that we're inundated with, and it makes it really challenging. And we can get drained just from those things. I'm an empath, so I really absorb all that. And I've had a couple of really big emergencies in my life lately that were I had to put into context. It's like, okay, no one's life is at stake. And you can help more people when you've had some sleep. And putting things into context. It's really humbling when you have to do these things. And then once you start learning them, it's like, okay, why didn't I do this ages ago, right? Within my own platform, I'm a lot about productivity and go, go, go. And I said, is this serving in the capacity that I want to serve? And it really wasn't. And I know there's a space or a path where you can actually live intentionally, live that, and you might not want to use the word slow living, but living intentionally is the words I prefer to use. But, you know, people are a little bit sometimes more familiar with slow living because it's sort of a thing these days. And bridging that to being productive. When I get off of this, I didn't do my French this morning because I slept in and I had to get some groceries and do a couple things. I had some other commitments. And so I have to do that after this. And it's like, okay, I could spend my whole evening doing that if I wanted to, or I can say, okay, I have to do this and this, and I'm going to spend my time. I'm being intentional about how I want to use my time for my evening. I want to get in a hot bath. I want to read for a bit. So that requires me to do maybe just my minimum 20 minutes of French. I get a little competitive on my French on a Sunday because I'm on Duolingo and the leaderboard shuts off Sunday night, right? So I get into it. But those are choices I can make, right? Or I could do work, but I don't make that choice right now. And I want to really instill that in my clients that they have a choice to be able to choose. They can choose themselves too, and it's okay to choose yourself. So, you know me, I can derail completely sometimes, and that's just my dishwasher going off. One of the things I really want to encourage people to do too is getting off of social media as much as possible. We are wasting our life on social media. Now, I had an emergency in my life this last week, and my little screen thingy came up on my thing, and it says you picked up your phone 96 times today. 96 times. And yes, I had an emergency going on, but I did not need to pick up my phone 96 times. And I put this on there specifically to help me with this because I recognize that I am doing this habitually and I need to find the path to let that go because I don't want to continue wasting my life. If I sit there and go, how come I didn't get that done today? Well, if I look at my phone, I encourage you to do that too. I think the app I was using was called Be Present. That was one I was using. And it reminded me that I picked up my phone 96 times that day and I was horrified. And like I said at the beginning, I'm learning this as I'm speaking it too. And I'm bringing this into all areas of my life as much and as quickly as I can because I'm instantly seeing the benefits of this. I started this sort of middle of last year. And every once in a while I have to jump back on and say, okay, I had this crisis this last week, and it's like, okay, now that the crunch of that is over, I don't need to keep living it. What you think about that? And there's a really great Facebook meme of all things out there that said, like, your spilt coffee today. Are you going to live that spilt coffee that was 3 minutes in your morning? Are you going to let that ruin your entire day? My issues from last week could have ruined my entire weekend, but I'm being doing my very best to be conscious to not let that happen. I just went shopping and got a whole bunch of really wonderful vegetables, and I'm being intentional about cleaning them and putting them more away nicely in the fridge, making a really nice dinner tonight because I love cooking. And or I could sit here and be completely stressed out about the things that are going on in my world. And I'm not just saying that you don't have to worry, get into spaces of worry and, things that happen. Worrying really doesn't do us any good, but some of us, it's not that easy to say no to worrying. And I want to acknowledge that because I've had moments where anxiety has gotten the best of me, we'll say. I don't like owning the fact that I have anxiety. Thank you, Mel Robbins, for that one of our recent podcasts that she talks about that. And I don't want it to, I'm letting go of identifying with that. But anxiety does get the best of me sometimes. And I need to quickly bring it back into perspective, which I'm learning that too. So let me go back to my notes because I have completely derailed, which is a good thing sometimes because I love organic conversation more than curated things. I do want to make sure I get all my points covered. So I always go back to looking. And with that, slow living, intentional living is more about how you're being and how you're showing up and the things you're choosing as opposed to what you're actually doing. The doing side is just being busy all the time. But are you doing things that are going to move the needle in your business? Are you doing things that are going to serve you in your health and your family and your life? Are you just busy? Are you bringing things into your life just to be busy? I used to do that when I was younger. Take on one more thing and one more thing and one more thing. Which, there's a saying that says if you need something done, ask a busy person because they'll get it done, which is true until you have nothing left in you to give anymore. And we're trying to prevent that. And finding where that line is, where you're not doing harm to yourself anymore. And you're still being productive and efficient and serving in a bigger way, but you're still being able to, serve yourself too. The other part I want to talk about when it comes to setting intentions is that when you have, I don't like using the word goals as much. I do goals in a different fashion, but when we set an intention for something, when you do that, you need to let that drive all your other decisions. That's how we let go of the busy. So when you set an intention for something, and okay, here's a great one. This is kind of funny. Set an intention to go into Costco. You're trying to manage your money better. So you go into Costco. You need to get raspberries and maple syrup. This was a true thing for me not that long ago. Going to Costco. I came up with raspberries and maple syrup because so I don't want to say I've trained myself, but maybe that's the right words for it, to say, when I pick up oh, this would look great in the garden moment, say, no, I have other intentions. I'm saving for this. I want to, this big trip I want to take, and I want to buy property again. Those are my priorities right now. And so the planter in Costco, I don't really need it at all. It just looks nice. And, if you have a habit of spending money and you want to get out of that, you have to take those moments to say no and do things with intention. So intention isn't always that easy. However, it's going to get you where you want to go. And when we think about slow living and doing things with intention, if I were to buy that planter in Costco, it probably would have meant that I would have bought some new other plants, and it would have meant I had to spend my afternoon getting those into the garden and redigging up the garden, which is Pandora's box. You can see where it goes. And if you love gardening, that's maybe not the best example because gardening is hugely therapeutic, and many people would love that. But you get the idea how it can take you off of what you're trying to accomplish and what matters most to you, which is what we're talking about too. So it's about intention and what matters most to you and making room in your life for what matters most to you. You say you don't have time to exercise. You know, I picked up my phone 96 times that day. I didn't get any exercise in that day. I had to learn from that moment. And I don't know if I was in a position to be able to do that. We were in the middle of a crisis, which is all fine now. And it's about who you're being, how you're showing up in this world, what matters most to you. Okay? So, on my platform, I'm trying to let go of some of the busy and hustle and bring in more intention, more joy, more a slower pace. Doing things like when you have your coffee, savor it. How many times do you have your coffee and you don't even remember if you drank it or not because it's just gone? If you love cooking, do it intentionally. I'm going to be making some broccoli cheddar soup tonight and some homemade biscuits. It's one of my comfort foods. It's a cold, drizzly day here, and that's what just I'm craving. And I'll be also at the same time I'm making wellness shots lately because I've been feeling very run down just because we got change of seasons and I've had lots of people around me sick, so I'm just doing my part to stay healthy. And so I'll be building some wellness shots for me, which I just put in my freezer. Maybe I'll do a little snippet of maybe a YouTube short or an IG piece for it to show me doing those. But I love making those. And I have one first thing in the morning to start my day. So good. And they make me feel good. I'm doing it with intention. And I see people in my world that I'm not going to name people, but I've watched people in my world where, and this is not just even recent, this is over the years, where they walk into the office or the lunchroom and they're having a can of Coke and it's first thing in the morning. And that's an intentional thing for that person, right? Or was it just because it was convenient? Or we all have to make decisions on our own life, right? I don't want to be judgmental because that's their choice. I'm choosing and wanting to be intentional about what matters most to me. And for me, healthy living matters most to me. I want to live many, many healthy years in good health, not just, I don't want to be in a nursing home at 80. I want to be strong, vibrant, traveling, doing yoga, doing Pilates in my 80s, even in my 90s if I can. That's my intention. And it starts with the decisions we make today. And for me, slowing down and it's for me, it's about slowing down so that I actually have the time to do the things that matter most. Because I could be busy all the time. I have that type A personality. I'll take on this and that and the other thing and be on boards and do all the things. But what matters most to me? My health, my family, financial stability, financial independence, is maybe the words. I've always been financially independent, but I want it to be even more so. And yeah, when I go into retirement, I want to be able to have the choice to do whatever I want whenever I want. I still have a young daughter in university, so I'm not, I've got a lot of things the way I want them, but I want to get even more so I can, have some other big intentions and big things that matter most to me that I want to accomplish. And I have some businesses I want to create in my life, and those require me to, it's more about being than it is about doing. Okay? So let's recap a little bit because I went all over the map. My apologies. Slow living really isn't about escaping life. It's about creating a life that you don't need to escape. It's about building a life that is set on intention, doing the things that matter most to you. If traveling matters most to you, make that your intention. Make that matter most. Make that your focus. And then all your decisions are geared in that direction. And learning from me, you don't have to do this all overnight. This is like anything, it's a work in progress. We gradually build it into our life more and more and more. When you do things wholesale, just jumping in, we often fail at those things. When you build it more and more and more, and it gets to feel better and better, and it's like building that confidence muscle, right? Then it just becomes part of your everyday living. It is who you are. Those boundaries are already built. Done. And if you've enjoyed this content here, like, subscribe, share it with friends, and come back and watch because I will be putting out a lot more content on this. It is, as much as I love money and mindset and manifesting, three M's, not easy to say, I also want to infuse in the slow living, doing things intentionally. And, when you get into living in that vibration, things come to you a lot easier. You're not drained, you're not pushing into the brick wall all the time. And it all marries together really beautifully. So I want to thank you, and I'm grateful for you hanging out here today with me. And we will talk to you real soon. Have a great day, everyone.